Dale Carnegie said it best. We can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than we can in 2 years by trying to get them interested in us. So even if we're introverted, instead of thinking, what can I say that's brilliant or witty or that's going to make them like me? If we ask, so what do you do when you're not working? Oh, I run triathlons. Oh, I coach my son's soccer team. Oh, I sing in the community choir. And then, and then W questions. Oh, like, what led you to that? Or why do you enjoy that so much? And they feel, oh my goodness, someone actually cares enough to find out what matters to me, right?
Do you know that only 5% of the startups get funded by VCs? Did you know that 75% of people are afraid of public speaking? And did you know that Microsoft in 2015 did a study that stated that the average human attention span is 8 seconds? Now imagine if I had a guest that could give you the framework for the perfect pitch for your startup. And imagine if this person had an Audible book that would help you, give you methods to getting people's attention. Now imagine if you can get that information right now. But you can, because today I have Sam Horn on the show. Sam Horn is my entrepreneur mom, 100%. Because every time I talk to her, every time I read her book, every time I listen to her Audible book, it's like the security blanket of warmness of everything's going to be okay. I mean, seriously, she is the most genuine, authentic, loving, like every time I speak to her or message her or whatever, like the response, the feeling that I get from her, the message is just warmth. I'm excited about my conversation with Sam. Baby Care over here is excited about my conversation with Sam. So let's get into it. Let's get after it, guys. This is Your Superior Self, episode 93. Time is the New Trust with author Sam Horn. As driven people, it's in our nature to overestimate what we can do in a day. We want to climb a mountain, build a house, change the course of a company, or learn a new skill in that one day. We need to remember that learning doesn't happen all at once or in a single day. It takes time, day after day and year after year. And that excerpt was taken from the book Driven, written by Dr. Douglas Brockman. And to say that I relate to that excerpt is an understatement. And this book has seriously helped me learn about who I am and deal with the emotions that I feel and kind of put my life in perspective. That I'm always going to look for the next thing, look for the next reward. Because I'm reward deficient, I don't feel the same amount of joy when I achieve a goal like most people do. That's why I'm always looking for the next thing to achieve. And this book has really helped me deal with that and actually gives me a practice of meditation that I can utilize in my life to kind of slow things down and be present in the moment instead of looking towards the future. And I can't wait to have Doug on the show. Like, I'm going to be reaching out to him pretty soon after I finish the book to get him on here and really digest the book and really break it down so that you guys can have a better idea about what I mean when I talk about driven people. But another thing that I want to touch upon, because it keeps coming up, that I keep noticing and is like the depression rate amongst the younger generation, like coming up. And I mean, we really don't talk about this too much or really think about it, but like social media and technology and the internet and where we're headed, I mean, it's so great. It's so important for us to generate these these forms of technology to really help us out in our daily lives and mankind as well. But then there are ramifications, there are side effects of this, which is loneliness and lack of communication. Like, you think about it, like, how many times this week have you really sat down and had a conversation with somebody, and not like a generic superficial conversation, but like a deep like connecting conversation where you open yourself up to whatever the story unfolds, like the vulnerability of really connecting with someone and really learning about what their story is. Like, we don't have those conversations anymore. Like, we don't have those types of conversations, and I need to have more of those as well, like to really be present at a conversation and have it and listen and be on the same level and really appreciate the fact that they're sharing that with me. Like, my goal one day is to open up like a coffee shop or something like that, where there's no technology allowed whatsoever, no cell phones or laptops. I'm not even going to have like any Wi-Fi, but the main idea of it is to connect with whomever, like, and just have like these different days of the week where you come in and you just go from table to table and having a conversation with someone and learning their story. You think about all the unwritten books out there of people's life stories that just never go, they're unwritten. I mean, I have a guy that I work with that has a tremendous story. Like, every time I talk to him about his past, it's just so crazy, some of the stories that I hear. It's like, we don't have those conversations. I don't know if it's because we don't want to open up to being vulnerable with others, or if it's we don't want to show our weaknesses, which is probably it. And because of Facebook and social media and Instagram, we always want to portray this perfect lifestyle. And I think the more that we just kind of back up from that and really show who we are, like unapologetically show our lives for what they are, like being genuine and authentic, I think the more happier we'll be. And that's one of the reasons why in this episode, like, to be vulnerable. Like, there's a couple parts in this episode where I'm writing, Sam is talking during the interview, and I'm writing a lot of the information that she's saying down, because she's so great, she's so amazing, and she's such a professional. And she catches me off guard, like with a question. She'll throw a question back at me, and it's not that I'm not paying attention, but it's like I'm so wrapped up in her answer that I'm writing this down. I don't want to forget it, even though this is a MP3, so it's not like I can not go back and rewind it, right? But it's like, in the moment, I'm like, instead of being connected with her and just really listening, I'm too busy writing something else down and trying to think about, maybe a question that I can ask in relation to what she just said. And you can hear it in the interview where she catches me off guard. I'm like, ooh, yeah, and then I just immediately say something. But that's, to me, that is just a learning experience, right? Like, Sam is so great, and she's such a professional. Like, she gives me advice in this interview on ways to be a podcaster 5 days a week, like off from the hip, like off the cuff. She just says it, and it's amazing advice. Like, it's ideas that I never even thought of. But to be able to connect with people like this, like Sam Horn, is a blessing for me. And it's a blessing for you to be able to listen to this, because her audible books and her books that she's written, like, it's like sitting down with Sam and having a conversation. That's how good they are. And you guys need to take advantage of these opportunities like this. Not just the podcast, but like with books in general. And that's how you get to the next level. There's not some magical mentor out there that's going to show you a map of your way. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to have to do the work, and you're going to have to pick up a book and read and watch YouTube and listen to podcasts, and you're going to fail along the way. That's your journey. That's just the way it is. And the point of this rant isn't to like make you discouraged about that. It's to kind of give you this it's to really give you this idea that the answers are in front of you. We just have to connect with the right sources. And those sources might be someone or something that isn't quite obvious in the moment. And I think the more opportunities that we take to connect with different people and to connect with sources like books and Audible and podcasts and YouTube and different resources like that, I think that the journey becomes more clear. But don't get wrapped up in the finish line of whatever you're doing. Get wrapped up in the journey and the experiences that unfold along that path, and that the learning and the actual happiness comes with the ups and downs. And don't get discouraged. Don't ever quit. Just keep grinding. Just keep grinding out, and the happiness is in the journey. I promise you that. And I can go on. I can go on and on about this subject because it's my life story, right? Like I always thought that there was, there's going to be a rainbow and a pot of gold at the end of the journey, but it's not that at all. The journey is actually the gift. And to really get to the reason why we're here today, it's because I had a conversation with Sam Horn, which was amazing. And a little bit more about Sam is that she's a CEO of INTRIGUE agency. She's had the privilege of speaking to more than 500,000 people worldwide. And for clients that include Capital One, Intel, Cisco, Boeing, Nationwide, National Geographic, and NASA. Her TED Talks and books, Tung Fu, Pop, Washington Post bestseller, got your attention, and Someday Is Not a Day in the Week has been featured in the New York Times, Fast Company, Reader's Digest, and on NPR Radio. One of her most fun accomplishments was when she and her Tung Fu team stumped the panel on the TV show To Tell the Truth. I am super excited about this conversation, if you couldn't tell, and I'm excited for you guys to listen. Let me know what you guys think about the entire interview. Give me your feedback. Send me an email. Go to yoursuperiorself.com. Leave me a message. I'm really, truly interested in knowing what you guys have to say. So without further ado, here is the icon, Sam Horn. What is up, Superior Nation? Welcome back to another episode. Tonight I have a very special guest, Miss Sam Horn. I actually got to see her speak at CadreCon this year, and it really made an impression on me. And I wanted to bring her on the show to talk about that talk and some other things that she's got going on. Sam, I want to say thank you so much. It's an honor for you to be here tonight. I'm excited about our conversation.
Thank you. I hope people have pen and paper or their fingers and their favorite digital device, because we're going to jump right into it. We're going to brainstorm and strategize whatever it is they care about, so they can communicate it in 60 seconds or less, so people's eyebrows go up and they say, I get it and I want it.
You said that at Cadre, and I'll get to that in a moment. But first, I want to know, like, what do you got going on today? What's Miss Sam Horn doing right now?
I'm a happy camper because I took my business on the road for 4 years. On my year by the water, I swam with dolphins and sailed the Chesapeake Bay with Captain Jen and put my hand under the water pump where Helen Keller said her first word. And after 4 years, I have found the perfect home, and I'm settling into Boulder on Wonderland Lake. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and it's a shame because we started out the interview and I could see the background, and it is stunning. It is absolutely beautiful, and you deserve every bit of that beauty.
Thank you. I wake up to it, I write to it, I walk around it, and I tell you, the muse is here big time.
So at the CadreCon talk, you talked about so many different things that just caught my attention, and I want to talk to you a little bit about today. Like you talked, I think the first thing that caught my eye was time is the new trust. And can you explain to my audience, what do you mean by that?
Well, Richard Branson said time is the new money, and I've adapted that a little bit to say that time is the new trust. And you've probably heard that goldfish have longer attention spans than we do. Goldfish, 9 seconds, human beings, 8 seconds. So the clock starts ticking the second we start talking. So I've come up with all kinds of ways that you can very quickly and concisely get across what you care about. So even the most distracted, busy person is intrigued and wants to know more.
So how can people, I think we talked a little bit about the elevator pitch, right? During your talk. Like, how can people how can people apply that to their lives? Like how get their message across, make sure that whomever they're speaking to understands their message and is interested in it. I mean, I feel like I've been to a lot of talks. I feel like I've been in a lot of meetings where I can't read the room. I don't know if I'm doing good or not.
You're so right. I believe in give a real life example and then extract the technique that people can apply to your circumstances. So here's a real life example about why never to give another elevator speech. And then I'll give a very quick 3-step process you can use so the next time someone says, what do? You have a response that actually creates a meaningful conversation. So this was at Inc. 500. And I'm doing a session, and I asked a woman who is Entrepreneur of the Year for Oklahoma, I said, what do you do? Wah, 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 wah. At the end of 60 seconds, no one in the room had any idea what she did, and she was the CEO. And think of the lost opportunity cost. I mean, these are the top entrepreneurs in the country. People aren't going to walk up and continue the conversation. They're not going to remember what she did or refer it or want to work with her. So I said, okay, first, don't explain what you do, because that's like trying to explain electricity. Instead, what are the results of what you do that we can see or smell or taste or touch? She starts talking about MRIs and CAT scans and so forth. I said, great. Now, when someone says, what do you do? Don't tell them. Because if you say, I run the medical facilities that offer MRIs and CAT scans, they're going to go, oh, and that's going to be the end of the conversation. We don't want to end the conversation. We want to open the conversation. So turn it into a 3-part question. Do you know anyone, could be yourself, a friend or family member, who has had an MRI or CAT scan? Now stop talking, because they're going to say, oh, well, I haven't, but my daughter had. She hurt her knee playing soccer, and she had an MRI. Now we just link what we do to what they just said. We say, oh, I run the medical facilities that offer MRIs like the one your daughter had when she hurt her knee playing soccer. Boom. It's under 60 seconds. You already have a dialogue instead of a monologue. They already relate to what you do, have benefited from what you do, and you're probably off on an interesting conversation. So that's why from now on, don't tell people what you do. You want to know those 3 steps?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like instead of asking what we do, we should be asking you, who are you, right? And
no, it's not, and thank you, but it's not open-ended.
No.
It is what I'm kind of known for. Why I'm known as the intrigue expert is because I believe words matter, every single one of them. That's what Seth Godin said when he endorsed my book, Pop. So I'll give you another example, and then once again, people are thinking, what's a conference coming up, a networking event? Someone's going to say, what do you do? And if you use this, I promise you it's going to be better than the standard, I help blank do blank, which is a monologue. And at the end of it, even if people get it, it leads to a conversation cul-de-sac. They don't have anywhere to go with it. So quick other story. I'm at YPO in Ireland, and a guy comes up to me before my session. He said, Sam, I normally don't talk about this, but I'm an introvert. I fly across an ocean and a continent to get here, and then I hang out in my hotel room because I run this tech company. It's so complicated. No one ever gets it. It's just so awkward. I just hate small talk. And I said, can we play? And he said, sure. I said, so once again, step 1, what are the results of what you do that we can see or smell or taste or touch? We want to get it out of rhetoric and into the real world. He starts talking about credit cards and financial software and computers, and my light bulb went off. I said, oh, do you make the software that makes it safe for us to buy things online? He said, yes. I said, no, don't say that. Now put it into a 3-part question. Do you know anyone, could be yourself, a friend or a family member, now make it real world, who shops online? I said, what are the top 3 online retailers right now? He said at that time, eBay, Travelocity, and Amazon. Like on eBay, Travelocity, and Amazon. Put a sock in it. They're going to go, well, I hate that stuff. But my wife's on Amazon all the time. She loves the free shipping. All we have to do now, link what we do to what they just said. That's where the commonality is. That's where the connection is. Oh, I make the software that makes it safe for your wife to buy stuff online. Oh, Oh, once again, it's under 60 seconds. Both people have talked. There's a mutually meaningful connection. And now we're off and running instead of what do you do? Boom. What do you do? Boom. And that's the end of the story.
You make it sound so easy. Like it's, I feel like, introverts like myself, like it's tough for us. Like we go into a room and it's like you immediately feel that pressure. You feel all the eyes are watching you and you're like, oh man, I hope I don't mess up. And then next thing you know, you mess up and now you're feeling like anxiety. You're feeling like the blood, the hotness in your face. Like what are some like methods that we can use like before we walk into the room?
Trey, I'm so glad you brought that up because Diane Keaton has this great quote. She said, it's not about you. It never was. And one of the reasons I love this way of introducing ourselves is because it takes the pressure off us. We're not trying to impress people. We're not trying to come up with this brilliant, perfectly crafted elevator speech that no one will remember after we say it. I'll give you another example. Right in Washington, D.C., Andrew Horn had started a nonprofit called Dreams for Kids. And what Dreams for Kids does is it gets people in wheelchairs with autism, cerebral palsy, off the sidelines into the games of life. They play with the Nationals and the Capitals and the Wizards and so forth. But when people and is in your age group at that point, Andrew was in his late 20s, when people would say, what do you do? He would say, I run a nonprofit. Boom, end of conversation. And that's what's awkward. That's what's painful. That's why people hate networking is because they don't know how to open an initial question that gives people a hook on which to hang a meaningful conversation. So when I talked with Andrew about this, I said, Andrew, turn it into, do you know any kid in a wheelchair with a disability, maybe with autism or cerebral palsy or had a brain injury? Stop talking. They may say, oh, my son's best friend, or there's a girl there in my daughter's class. Oh, we help girls like in your daughter's class get off the sidelines, and we have an event coming up, where they get to go out and play soccer with United and so forth. And now, really, how can I find out more? What's your website? I want to make sure and send it to my daughter's friend. And you see, all we are people talking about something they care about, something we care about, and in a way that both of us care about it, instead of this being just stripped of any humanity or heart that makes networking for some people like a four-letter word.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the connection, right? Like making that connection and seeing physically on the person's face. Like you talked about the eyebrows, like that is the dead giveaway, right? Like the eyebrows, if they're flat, they're unmoved, and if they're up, they're intrigued, right? Like that's one thing that I did remember from your talk. Like explain that, please.
Well, I helped start and run the Maui Writers Conference for 17 years, kind of what Cannes is to the film industry, we were to the publishing industry. We gave people an opportunity to jump the chain of command. You could pitch your screenplay right to Ron Howard. Where are you going to get an opportunity like that? But no one knew how to pitch. These agents and editors would say, so tell me about your book, or what's your book about? Wah, 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 wah. I stood in the back of the room and I watched people pitch, and I could predict who was getting a deal without hearing a word being said based on the decision maker's eyebrows. Because from now on, if we're trying to explain our business or our product or our launch or our campaign, and people's eyes are knit and furrowed like this, it means they're confused. And confused people don't say yes. Confused people don't keep listening, and confused people don't buy. Now, if the eyebrows were unmoved, it meant they were unmoved or they'd had Botox. But if the eyebrows were up, it meant, hadn't heard that before. That's interesting. See, eyebrows up mean I'm intrigued. I want to know more. So that's what my book's Pop is about, got your attention about, is once again, I don't care whether it's in a staff meeting. I don't care if it's a conference presentation. I don't care if you're going out, on Friday night to meet your soulmate or something like that. The goal is in ethically, this is not a tactic or manipulation, but it's how can we come up with something that isn't standard, that isn't eye-rolling, that actually engages people. The eyebrows go up, and now they're intrigued, they're curious, we've got that connection. You want one of my favorite examples of that?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, right there in Washington, D.C. is an organization called Springboard Enterprises. Springboard has helped entrepreneurs get $9.4 billion in capital. This is, names that you would know, but let me cut to the chase. They have something called the Dolphin Tank, which is kind of a kinder, gentler version of the Shark Tank. Now, I'm judging that contest, and I'm looking at the business plans beforehand. Here was Carrie Carter, who was trying to get funding for a business for a hook you put in your car to hang your purse on. Now, initially, I think this is not very impressive. She was brilliant, though, because this was at the Long Beach Convention Center. There's probably could seat 5,000 people in the ballroom. Maybe there's a few hundred. People are kind of texting, not paying much attention. She hauls a full-size car seat to the head of the ballroom. She puts her purse and her cell phone on the seat. Then she puts her hands like on an imaginary steering wheel and she says, have you ever been driving along? You had to stop all of a sudden and your cell phone fell off the seat and you're kind of scrabbling around trying to get it with one hand and drive with the other hand. Imagine never having to do that again. A guy in the audience stood up and he said, I'll take two, one for my wife and one for my daughter. And I thought she went from really to I'll take two for these three things. Number one, she had a prop. If you're trying to sell something or suggest something, what can make them look? Because if they're not looking, they're not listening. So if you're talking about an app, hold up your phone. Actually ask people to hold up their phone. Show them how to do it so they're visually engaged. Because if they're not watching, they're not wanting. All right, next is ask, have you ever? Have you ever had this, this, this? And the goal is for people to say, yes, that happened to me, or that happened to someone I care about, or that just happened yesterday, because now they've got the internal yes, they're relating to it, identifying with it. You're putting them in the scene of the problem you solve. And then say, imagine never having to do that again. People Socratically want what you've got because you have acted out the value proposition by putting them in the scene of a situation they don't want to happen again, and you've got the answer to that issue. All of that can be done in under 60 seconds. That's how you get those eyebrows up.
So let's say you have the eyebrows up. How do you end it?
Oh, good for you. I love it. Good question, Trey. Okay, now back with Springboard. I was working with a number of them pitching before a room full of investors at the Paley Center in New York. And I said, Marcia, we're going to give you a competitive edge. Jack Welch said, if you don't have a competitive edge, don't compete. I think if we don't have a competitive edge, we can't compete. So I said, do you know how most people end a presentation or a report at a meeting or a pitch?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Like, thank you for listening. Or if you have any questions, let me know. Talk about leaving money on the table. I said, well, here's what she did. She said, once again, I'm Marcia. I'm the one with the white spiky hair. At our next break at 2:30, I'm going to be out in the lobby over by the registration desk. If you'd like a product demonstration, if you'd like to talk with our CFO about our financial projections or our CMO about our marketing, how we're going to scale, please come out and talk with us. Once again, I'm Marcia with the white spiky hair. See you at 2:30. Guess who is surrounded by people? So from now on, how you wrap up is you always make a visual reference. Once again, I'm Bob in the green jacket. I'm Sarah in the red dress. Because if we do not say our name, if people see us later on at the cocktail reception or the pitch fest or the conference or whatever, if they can't remember our name, they don't walk up to us because it's awkward. And furthermore, if there's hundreds of people, we may not pop out of the pack. But when we say in the green jacket, Bob in the green jacket, Sarah in the red dress, then when we see Sarah in the red dress, we are so much more likely to go up to her because that seed was planted. Now, the second thing we want to do is we want to give them exact time and place where they can find us. So say, I'm going to be back in Washington, D.C. the first week of September, or I'm going to be in my office from 2 to 4 on Monday. So when you let people know where you're going to be and when, once again, you're planting an actual action seed that they're much more likely to follow up on. Now give them 3 options that they really think, oh, yes, I would like that free article about this. Or yes, I would like to see a product demonstration, or I would like to talk with you in more detail about how this will benefit my company. So 3 options, any one of which would appeal to them. And now you have an action-oriented close that actually motivates people to follow up instead of saying thank you and dropping the opportunity ball.
You have so much insight on this. Like, it's crazy. How did you gain most of your experience in the public speaking realm?
Well, first, thank you. And second, what I do is, how do I do this? Well, number one, I don't read other people's books. Someone came up to me when Tung Fu came out and said, oh, you must have read Tony Robbins' book because you have some similar ideas. Well, Tony had endorsed Tung Fu, but I've never read his books. And I decided then that I never wanted to be accused of cutting and pasting or cribbing from someone else's book. So I don't read books in my genre. But what I do is I interview people. I interview taxi drivers and waitresses and lawyers and entrepreneurs and executives, and I have a 10W question quiz. So, who modeled this for you? Who didn't model this for you? When is the time you did this well? When is the time you didn't do this well? Why is this important? What's your piece of advice? What do you do when this isn't working? And that way, my books and my presentations, hopefully I have lots of real life examples. It's proof of concept because people know this actually happened. People were in this situation. They had this challenge. They felt this way, and they were able to turn it around. I have a friend, Steve Persante, who is the publisher of Barrett Kohler. And do you know what his number 1 prerequisite is for publishing a book?
What?
What's the shift? So when I write and I speak, I juxtapose everything. Over on the left is what doesn't work, and over on the right is what does. This is the problem and the solution and the issue and the answer and what sabotages our success and what supports it. And hopefully every example and every tip moves us from what doesn't work to what does.
So that's some fascinating stuff. So what would, like, if you were going to ask a taxi driver some questions, like what would you ask for real life feedback?
Well, I've written a lot of books. I've written a book about bullies, Take the Bully by the Horns. I've written a book about concentrate. Dr. Stephen Covey said it was the best book on focus he'd ever seen. I've written, about Tung Fu. So here, I'll tell you, my latest book is Someday is Not a Day in the Week.
I was getting ready to ask you that because
there you go, Trey.
I was getting ready to ask you that question because it is, I want to read it so bad.
Trey, we can, you know what? How about with 3 kids and a busy life, Trey? Maybe what I'll do is I'll send you Audible so when you're driving somewhere, maybe you can listen to it. And I'll take you on adventures around the world on the Year by the Water and the Insight. Sound good?
I got to tell you something, guys. Sam Horn is my new favorite author. I tell you what.
You're making my day. So let's see, can we switch this? How about I ask you some questions,
Okay.
Trey?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. What is a someday? What is some dream you have, something that you want to achieve, some place you want to go, some person you want to meet, something you want to accomplish? So what's a dream that you've got?
A dream that I have is being able to podcast all the time. 6 days or 5 days a week. Let's not go crazy. 7 days a week. It's a little too much. I'm not JLD. Let's do 5 days a week.
Okay, excellent. All right. And how many times are you doing it right now?
2 days a week.
2 days a week. All right. Now, if we were going to talk about barriers to entry, you're an entrepreneur. So if you were going to say, is it that you don't have the time? Is it that it's not making money? Is it that you don't have high caliber guests? Is it what are like 3 barriers to entry of you podcasting?
I would say that one of the main barriers is the revenue, right? So the revenue isn't as much as my day job. And I guess 2 other ones would be, it's not that the guests aren't of quality. It's just that maybe a lot of people don't have that wow factor, I guess, or that the name recognition. And then
Okay.
another one, sorry. And then another one would be, I guess, would be just, see, because I do everything myself. So it's like the editing, it's definitely time, right? So that the lack of time and the lack of, deciding whether I'm going to spend 4 hours, batching some episodes, or I'm going to spend 4 hours with the family. So it's like, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. Here's the good news, Trey, because you're in Washington, D.C., right?
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of associations in Washington, D.C., and if you went to one of the larger associations and you make them a deal, because many of them have like an AV studio right in their headquarters. And so it's a combination of, the people, you have the chops and the skills. So how about if you propose to them that for 3 months, you're going to do a series on leadership, and it's not going to be insular. Yes, there will be some thought leaders from their industry, but you're going to bring someone in from this industry and someone in from this industry so that people are really compelled to listen because they're learning something new each time. So maybe what you say, let's do it on a 3-month probationary basis, and maybe let's do it 6 weeks or something like that. So maybe you do it once a week at their headquarters. You don't have to have the equipment. You're just bringing in the people. And at the end of that, if it has increased their subscriptions, or if they're having it as a bonus for people who re-up for membership, or it's an added value or something like that, then it's on a paid basis, because that is a little bit of a side hustle. But guess what? Now you have legitimate access to some really top name people, because it's not just coming on your podcast, it's coming to ASAE that has, hundreds of thousands of association leaders around the country or something like that, growing your visibility, growing your track record. It's not a one-off because you can do it for them, and then all these other partners you can do it for as well, huh?
It's brilliant. Do you have any connections over that way?
You know what? We share a friend in Derek Coburn. This
Okay, yeah.
this is something to talk with Derek about. Is let's start working our 1 degree of separation. And by the way, one other thing I learned at Maui Writers Conference is we put something together in a 1-page pitch. Like for book proposals, they tell you to do these 60-page proposals with chapter by chapter outlines, and they don't read them. They don't have time. So when I work with clients, we distill a book pitch into 4 pages. If you want their attention, the first words out of your mouth are, I know you're busy, and I've distilled this into 1 page showing why this would be an ROI for you and your members and a bottom line for your organization. And on that 1-page pitch, it's the W5 form. What is it we're talking about? A weekly podcast on leadership, or on customer service, or on innovation. Pick a topic that would be relevant for them. Who you put in, who would listen to it? Is it their members? Is it their staff members as well? Maybe as a service to their community, if this is a veterinary association, maybe it's not just the veterinarians and their team. Maybe it's their clients as well, right? I mean, we're just playing. It's like, also then is when and where. Maybe pick a time that they're not busy at their office. So I'm trying to think an association office.
Not
Well,
busy? Probably Fridays.
we're thinking like our decision maker. We're making it easy for them to say a yes, right? It's why is because right now many associations are having trouble with membership. A lot of people aren't re-upping. They're not flying across the country to a conference, etc. So this might be a value add for them, because maybe through your network you could access people, thought leaders that they would never have a chance to learn from. And guess what? In the beginning, it doesn't cost them a penny. They don't have to, drive through DC traffic to go to a meeting or something like that. They can do it from their office or their home or their car, right?
Yeah, I'm going to have Sam Horn come on first time I'm there. We talk about some communication. How do you work with your clients on that, right? Like you work with communication skills. I mean, I am terrible at communicating. Like I think I just have a fear. Like I've always had this fear of I'm not going to sound smart enough, right? Like that I'm not going to have the intelligence to hold a conversation with someone that is, somebody who's, very highly educated. And here I am, blue collar guy. I'm going back to school, college and stuff. And like, there's an intimidation factor there, right? Like how do you coach your clients?
So there's two questions here. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I coach, and then a favorite example that goes right to what you're talking about, Trey, is I have the privilege. I get to work with like the founder of Travelocity and Kayak, Terry Jones, on his books and so forth. I work with White House Fellows and Sandra Joseph, who is Broadway's longest leading lady on her TEDx talk. Kim Malick, who opened 500 Starbucks for Howard Schultz on her South by Southwest talk. So when I work with people, it's usually on a TEDx. So Anthony Howard, who is the CEO Whisperer out of Australia, I helped him come up with a new brand, and he is now the founder and the CEO of the Socratic Leader Academy. But here's his backstory that I think that you can relate to, is that when he was 18, he kind of ran away from home and he ended up on merchant ships. And as the youngest kid on the ship, they'd have him do the night watch. So he'd be up there, him in the ocean, and up would come someone who couldn't sleep. And it would be the captain, or it would be some 40-year-old master sergeant. And he thought, I'm 18. What do I know? I don't have anything to offer these guys. All he would do was ask a question. He would say, so what's going on? And they would talk to, oh, my wife is upset, I'm never home, and so forth. And then when they would stop talking, he would turn back the conversation instead of take back the conversation. Because if we say oh, I think you should do this, or I've been in that situation, or I suggest this, we pull the conversation carpet out from underneath the other person. But when we turn back it, so what do you think you're going to do? You know?
Yeah, talk about them, right?
But the key is to use the word you instead of I. And see, you don't have to be brilliant. And what he found, he was like one of the most popular guys on the ship. Guess what he does now? CEOs from around the world fly to Anthony, and they go fly fishing, or they go like that. And all he does is ask questions. So what do you, of these options, what do you think is the one that feels right? So, you know, do you think you should fire that person? And most people want a sounding board, right? More than they want advice. So Dale Carnegie said it best. We can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than we can in 2 years by trying to get them interested in us. So even if we're introverted, instead of thinking, what can I say that's brilliant or witty or that's going to make them like me? If we ask, so what do you do when you're not working? Oh, I run triathlons. Oh, I coach my son's soccer team. Oh, I sing in the community choir. And then, and then W questions. Oh, like, you know, what led you to that? Or why do you enjoy that so much? And they feel, oh my goodness, someone actually cares enough to find out what matters to me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a place on your website where I can get like a PDF of that?
That's in my What's Holding You Back book. And let's see what I'll do, Trey. Yeah, you know, I have an article on LinkedIn. I think it's called Turn Small Talk into Tall Talk. And it's how we can, you know, bypass all the chit chat, the meaningless kind of stuff. So yes, I'll send that to you. You can share it with your listeners too if you'd like.
Awesome. That's some good stuff. And I'm watching your TEDx currently right now at South Lake Tahoe. Love that hair, by the way.
Hey, Trey, guess where I was the week before that?
Where were you?
Burning Man.
Oh, man, that is amazing. That is amazing. So like you're doing a TEDx, right? Like that has to be like nothing for you, right? It's just you in your zone, right?
Well, I do love it. I've done 3 TEDx's, and there's one on INTRIGUE that many people use in staff meetings because it uses some of these techniques that we've talked about. And however, you know what? Every time I speak, okay, quick story, and then I'll tell you what I say before I speak so that I'm never nervous, because I really am never nervous. If I'm nervous, I know I'm thinking about the wrong thing. I'm thinking, how do I look? Are they going to like me? You know, am I going to get paid speaking engagements, etc.? It's a wrong thing to focus on. So early in my career, I spoke for UCLA. And this was a program on customer service. And my goodness, the head of LA Times, or the head of customer service for LA Times, for Macy's, for MasterCard, were all in this session. And I knew if I did a good job, it could be a career maker. So I was very nervous. So I got there like 7 in the morning so I didn't get stuck in traffic. Well, the person who was head of customer service for the LA Times was there early. We both started talking. We're both mothers of small children. We bonded. And what I realized is this isn't an audience. These aren't these people's positions. This was a woman about my age. We're both talking about how we can get our sons to sleep through the night. And it made me realize that every single time I speak, I don't care if it's on a TEDx stage, if it's at the Asian Leadership Conference with Jack Ma. Here's what I say before I go on. I'm here to serve, not to show off. I'm here to inspire, not to impress. I'm here to make a difference, not to make a name. And if I center myself in that, then when I speak, my whole goal is that I see the lights go on in people's eyes, and I know that they are finding this valuable, and I am in my wheelhouse, and I feel blessed, and I am not nervous. I'm grateful.
That is so beautiful. I'm going to try that next time. I'm going to try that before every episode. I love that, being of service, right? Like being of service. And I think that is huge. And I think that people can read, especially your energy when you're being authentic and you're very, you try to connect with them on a level of like, you're trying to get your point across, your message. And people can tell when you're not honest about something, or you're just trying to sell them on something, right? Like, and when you're up, like I remember your talk at Cadre. I mean, like I took notes and I wanted to speak to you because like I just connected with you, right? Like you just have this personality. You have this like, it didn't even feel like it was like a talk really. It was just kind of like, I don't know. It was like everybody was connected with you. It was like clear connection between you and the audience. And that's what I aspire to. That is something that I admire in you. And I think that you're, I know it took a long time to get there and a lot of hard work. But that you're on that level that I think every speaker should be at. I don't even know what to call it. It's just like, it's like art. When you see an artist at work, it's like, that's what you're doing.
Boy, Trey, thank you. That means a lot. It's, I see your whiteboard behind you. Do you know what might be 2 good quotes to put up on your whiteboard?
Sure.
One is from Pablo Picasso, and he said, the purpose of life is to find our gifts. The meaning is to give them away. And you had a very clear dream that you want to podcast all the time, that you enjoy talking with talented thought leaders who are making a difference in the world. I see your genuine interest in wanting to peel back the layers and find out what contributed to that. How did you learn that? What went wrong? How did you ever have a dark night of the soul, etc.? So I think this is your gift, Trey. And
well, thank you. I try, because there are times where we feel like we're lost on this journey. Like you're trying to make sense of things, and I feel like a lot of people. They try to follow others, right? Because they see their path to success and they think it's easy because they did it, and they don't necessarily want to go on their own path because it's kind of, it's scary, right? Like you don't know if you're going to succeed.
So here's the other quote that's right in alignment with what you just said, and you're broadcasting this from Washington, D.C. Katharine Graham of the Washington Post said, "To do what you love and feel that it matters. How could anything be more fun?" And I think the only thing that's more fun is to do what we love and feel that it matters and get to do it with people we enjoy and respect and get paid for it. And see, what you're talking about, this is joyful. This is a privilege and a pleasure. And I believe that when we are in our element and we are in that state of flow, when we're doing what we love and we feel that it matters and so forth, that it is a rising tide experience. It elevates everyone around us.
No, you're absolutely right. How can people connect with you, and how can we get your laundry list of best-selling books?
You're welcome to go to my website, which is intrigueagency.com. So it's INTRIGUE agency.com. And on there are all 3 of my TED Talks. On there are all of my books. And you know what I did with the Someday book? I really wanted people to be able to host like a Jeffersonian dinner or like their own book club. And I want them to fill out the happiness quiz. So I have look under the Someday book section on my website. There's a reader's guide, a facilitator's guide, the happiness box, the happiness interview. So I really hope if people want to continue the conversation, I've just put it all out there so they can run with it. And next time they go out to dinner, just take the happiness interview with them and just interview your friend or your family member, your date or whatever. It'll not only lead to a meaningful conversation, often the light bulb goes off and the person has an idea and they support it and encourage us and we set it in motion. And next time we talk, maybe you've got that partnership with that association, or maybe you're podcasting 5 times a week, huh?
We'll see. We'll see. Someday is not, what is it? It is going to be here someday. I don't know what day, but it's going to be someday. So Sam, like when it's done and over with, right? Like when we're not here any longer, like what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want people to, when they hear your name, they're going to say, this is what she taught me. This is what she was about. This was her vibe. What do you want people to, what do you want to be remembered for?
Great question, Trey. I want them to remember that I was wealthy in what matters.
Dropping the mic on that. I like that because it's like, everybody associates wealth with, all the wrong things. And what matters is family. What matters is spirituality. What matters is that you're full in all the right areas, right? Not all the superficial stuff, not all the the big house, car, neighborhood, keeping up with the Joneses. It's about keeping you happy and balanced as a human, as a spirit, as a soul. So I love that answer. Short and sweet, and it's powerful.
Good.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining the show. This has truly been an honor and a pleasure, and I can't thank you enough.
It's really a joy, Trey. Best wishes to you.
I want to say thank you to Sam Horn for joining the show and hanging out and just dropping those value bombs. Wow, amazing. I want to say thank you to you, the listener. Thank you for downloading this episode. If you could, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. It helps me scale the podcast. This music that you're listening to now and at the very beginning of the show was provided by none other than Bryce Alvord. He creates crazy tunes. I don't know if you call it that, but seriously, his stuff is phenomenal. Go check him out at brycealvord.com. And if you want to check me out on any social media platform, you can do that as well. I'm on Twitter at DownsTrey, Instagram at TDowns80, and on Facebook as Trey Downs. Go to yoursuperiorself.com, sign up for the email list, and get every episode dropped into your inbox without having to do anything at all. And if you want to text the word superior to 444-999. If you don't feel like going on the interwebs, you can do that and you automatically get signed up on the email list. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you for supporting the show. Seriously, thank you so much. And I appreciate you. Thank you. And I can't wait to talk to you guys next week. Later.